I don't even know where to start with the debate, the presidential debate last night. I mean, it was just, I don't even know what to say. I know some people described it as a shit show, and others were like, oh, Trump won. And, you know, I was, and then others were saying, wait a minute, Biden won. And then some people said, you know, it didn't change anybody's mind. But I'm going to tell you this. The one thing that bothered me the most was the way that the question sometimes, and it wasn't just Chris Wallace. It wasn't about Chris Wallace. I'm not saying this is about Chris Wallace, but I'm saying how the narratives of what's been happening over the past year, let's talk about it. COVID, right? This weird virus that came out of China that swept across the globe that we, by the way, we still don't have all the answers on. We're supposed to just believe whatever is being thrown out there. By the way, there's a million different stories about COVID and who it's attacking and what it's doing and what we need to stay safe and what we're not doing to stay safe. And oh my gosh, I mean, our heads are spinning, right? A narrative. That's one narrative. We got the China virus, the COVID virus, the one that we don't even know. By the way, we can't even say. And Tucker Carlson has had this, the scientist on his show that was connected to the laboratories in Wuhan. And she apparently and allegedly claims, we know she worked there. We see pictures of her. And she allegedly claims, that the COVID virus was manufactured there. But guess what happens when she tries to talk about that? Something that's never happened before in history, really. Right? She's a source. She's leaking information. She's talking out against China. And all of a sudden, Twitter, Facebook, all of these other supposed fact checkers at the New York Times, by the way, the New York Times, which won Pulitzers for stories that were completely false on the president of the United States, the New York Times and the Washington Post, they come out and they fact check her and say, scientists said that this could not really be just man-made, that it was probably not altered. So fact check, she's wrong. We're going to remove Tucker Carlson, put Tucker Carlson in Facebook jail because he said that. And why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because last night during the debate, we got the COVID, right? We're dealing with the riots, right? Across our city streets, these riots that have burned Kenosha, Wisconsin. We've seen what's happened in Portland, Oregon. We're seeing what's happening. We saw what happened in Seattle, Washington, D.C., New York City, Pittsburgh, Philly. I could keep going on and on and on, Ohio, these different riots. And the weirdest thing happened last night, because that's another weird narrative. Nobody can really talk about that, because if we talk about Antifa, if we talk about Black Lives Matter, if we question anything, if we even ask about the U-Haul that showed up at the riots where people were literally taking out giant posters, Antifa posters, and getting helmets and getting little batons and things like that. If we even question that, we're conspiracy theorists, right? That's another narrative, right? So anytime, it's like, I used to call it my UFO theory, where you get laughed at, heckled publicly, right? It's like, we're going to be the virtue signalers. If you even ask if there's life somewhere else other than the planet Earth in this massive universe, which, by the way, we're not that smart. We don't know what's going on outside of our solar system. Really, we don't. We've never actually walked on Mars. But if we even question that, right? You're heckled. You're like, oh, you're an alien person. You're a conspiracy theorist. Until the Pentagon decided to leak a little bit out and say that they're actually watching, some weird stuff in our skies. The reason I bring that up is because there are these really weird fringe things like UFO. Okay, that could be totally false, but, they could play it that way. They can play that narrative. But now they're taking things like COVID-19, riots, what's happening in, let's say, the courts, right? Packing the courts, whether or not, any subject at all, some more than others, and taking those narratives and trying to control them. It's information warfare. It's thought warfare. They want you, and I'm talking about the government, the bureaucracy, but more importantly, the media that is basically in the pocket of these bureaucrats, the Democrats, the rhino Republicans, the establishment, because they really, really hate Trump. They hate him. They hate him. And they hate anybody who thinks like him. He's way too independent. He isn't following what we've always done. We must always do it this way. We are this way. We are the establishment, and you have to honor the establishment. What? What the hell? What is that? Honor, I'm sick of this. We're Americans. The reason the American people put President Donald Trump into office is because they are sick of the lies. They are sick of the elitists that made fun of them, that and people like Hillary who called them deplorables. They are sick of all of it. By the way, this administration is the only one that I know of where the director of national intelligence can actually give information to a senator, Chairman Lindsey Graham of the Judiciary Committee, and say that analysts, not Russian analysts, but people in the United States had information that they believed Hillary Clinton was actually behind like a pseudo campaign in 2016 to try and tie Trump to the Russians. And it's not surprising. Just look at the interviews with Robbie Mook, who worked for her in 2016. Look at what he talked about. He was talking about it all the time on CNN. Look at what John Brennan was saying. Look at what everybody was saying. They were the FBI. Look at what we found. But guess what? When that came out, when the DNI, John Ratcliffe, put that information out on debate day, right? Guess what happened? False. All the fact checkers, all the media, right? New York Times, Washington Post. By the way, Facebook put me in Facebook jail because I wrote a story about it. They said it was false. And you know why they gave me 3 strikes? You want to know what the first strike was? The first strike was a story we wrote like about 6 months ago when Jenny Terre went and interviewed the family in Muncie, who's the rabbi that was killed in Muncie. I believe he was a rabbi who was killed in Muncie, and he was in a hospital suffering. They basically flagged that story as not advertiser friendly. I have no idea why. It was a straight story. It was a photograph, a Jewish man that was attacked and killed because he was Jewish. And because the family gave a photo of him in a hospital. That's the photo they wanted people to see. It wasn't grotesque, but he was in his bed in a coma. And they said that was an advertiser friendly, that even the story wasn't advertiser friendly because it was too expressive. Let me explain to you why I'm so frustrated and why all of this, right, ties back to this presidential debate. You're probably thinking, Sarah, how does this tie into the debate, right? How does this all work? How does this tie in? It does. It does. You have to be very concerned right now. You have to be so worried because your freedom of speech, your freedom of thought, your ability to say exactly what you are seeing is being stifled. You've got people at Twitter, fact checkers, Facebook, all across the country, and especially the mainstream media. They do not want you to believe what you are seeing. They don't want you to believe it. And they will write every story they can, and they will push every bit of propaganda that they can before this election to make sure you do not see reality. Make sure you don't see it. You want to know how I know this is true? Look at the debate. Look at what happened with President Trump. The question about white supremacists. When in the world did you see KKK and white supremacists raging? And I think they're despicable, disgusting human beings, right? I am glad that I grew up all over the world. I am glad that I don't even think that way. It just doesn't even cross my mind, right? It just doesn't even, I don't think racism. In fact, the best part of me was my grandmother and my mom. And my great-grandmother was from West Africa, pure West African. By the way, brought to Cuba as a slave. Best part of me. They're disgusting, right? White supremacists are gross. But I'm going to tell you something. What happened to President Trump last night was because they were trying to push him. They were trying to corner him. We know it's been fact checked. President Trump never once ever supported any white supremacist groups, any crazy right-wing groups, any KKK, nothing like that. His daughter is Jewish. She is a devout Jew. His grandchildren, who he loves, devout. His son-in-law. There is nothing racist about that president. I'm telling you because I know him. Not really well. I know him enough. And I'm a pretty good judge of character. But they tried to corner him. They really wanted President Trump to say that all these white supremacists were the ones burning down all of the houses and buildings and businesses in Kenosha, in Portland, in Seattle, and the Proud Boys. And what was that? America, you've been seeing it. You all have been seeing it. You're all sitting there right now. Just go on your laptops. Do what I'm doing. Just look. It's Antifa. It's kids who follow Antifa. It's Marxist socialists. It's this crazy BLM organization, this Black Lives Matter organization. Yes, Black Lives Matter. Black people matter. All people matter. People matter. We matter. Nobody wants to murder. Nobody wants to kill. Nobody wants to see that in a world of social media where everybody's recording something and we have to watch it like we did with George Floyd, that horrific moment, right? But they want you to believe something that is not real. They want you to believe that there's systemic racism across the board in every single law enforcement, building across this nation, that the Federal Bureau of Investigation is filled with racists and the police officers in your local community, they're all racist. Doesn't matter if they're black. No, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if they're Asian. Doesn't matter if they're Hispanic. No, they're all racist. They're all racist against what? Against crime? I don't know. Yeah, sure, there are some bad apples. But what they want you to do is they want you to believe a lie. And I'm not making this up. I would talk to people, whistleblowers inside Google that I've spoken with over the last year, stories that I've done. I would talk to people that are connected to Facebook, people that were parts of developing these programs. Some of them told me that even in the military, some of these social programs were developed to create civil discourse and chaos. I mean, just across the board. Civil discord. Imagine that. We spend all of our times inside our cell phones. We spend all of our times just believing all of the crap that is being spewed. You want to know something? Russia, China, the left is always talking about, oh, they're bots. They're going to make you change your mind. Do you ever wonder what's happening right here? I'm not worried about Russia and China. I believe that our intelligence community are doing their job and that will expose them because they are enemies of the state in many ways. Look at what's happened with China and this virus. But look at what's happening in the United States with the flow of information. The majority of people in the national media are not saying, by the way, that it was China's fault. They do everything they can to blame President Trump for a virus that emanated from China, from Wuhan. By the way, it was very interesting because China closed down anybody traveling from the Wuhan province into the rest of the mainland China, but they left it open for people to fly out. That's a fact. Just look at the facts. Now, President Trump is not perfect, and he should be held accountable for everything that he does. But they are taking this. They're targeting, and I'm talking about they. I hate using that word, they. I'm talking about the former senior Obama officials that still have power, the people in the bureaucracy, the spies inside the NSC that we know about, like, remember, Lieutenant Colonel Vidman and everybody who's working against this president, including Republicans and people that served Republicans, like, remember, former CIA Director Hayden and all of the, the Lincoln Project crowd. They are playing games with the American public. Trust me, they don't like you. They do not like you. I'll tell you a funny story, and then I'll get back to the debate. But before the election in 2016, I was at an event in Washington, D.C., And there was a columnist that I was speaking to, somebody that I know very well, that was more conservative. And I was at an event actually with people that were working on foreign policy stories, mostly foreign issues, geopolitical issues in Pakistan, et cetera, et cetera. And this person walked up to me and said, you know what? I'm writing a column about how stupid the American people are that are voting for President Trump. And I said, it's that elitist attitude of yours that is going to get President Trump elected, because it's wrong. Because most of the American people want President Trump because he's actually somebody that listens to them. He's actually somebody that follows through with what he says he's going to do. He's not like all these other suits in Washington that pretend to be one thing on the outside and really something quite different on the inside. And that's exactly what happened. You, the American people, made the decision. And that made the people at the Lincoln Project, the Democrats, the Marxists, the elite snobs in Washington, D.C. that sit down for their $500 dinners and don't even know what the gallon of milk costs. That just made their stomachs turn. Like, how could you let this trash, because that's what they see it, this trash into Washington? Because for them, this is their town. This is their money. This is their lives. Look at how Biden lined his son's pocket. You know, hey, I don't blame him for loving his son, even if his son did everything wrong. I get it. He's a dad. He's going to love his son, even if he used cocaine, got thrown out of the military, was sitting on the board of a corrupt Ukrainian company, Burisma Holdings, and taking allegedly $3.5 million into his account. By the way, don't believe the narrative that they're trying to tell you. They're trying to blow this off. That's why Biden wouldn't answer any of those questions. That's why he wasn't really even asked those questions significantly, because Trump had to ask him those questions. Trump brought it up. But think about it. $3.5 million from the former Moscow mayor's wife, people connected to the FSB, which, by the way, is the KGB. It's Russia's, Soviet Union's KGB. After it became Russia, it turned into the FSB. And people connected to Vladimir Putin. If Donald Trump Jr., this is what's so crazy about this, got $3.5 million in his bank account with a suspicious activity report attached to it, it would be all over the media. It would be the lead at the New York Times. He would be a Russian spy. They would be handcuffing him. They would be taking him down. They would be taking that Ruski and putting him in jail. But because it's Biden's son, and this goes to show you, they don't really care about America. They really don't. They care about lining their pockets. They care about getting the system back to the way it was. And you could see that in the debate. You could feel it. President Trump, every time he interrupted, it was like, it's like when you're dealing with somebody that makes you feel like you're losing your mind. Like, President Trump's probably just sitting there going, I feel like I'm losing my mind here. Is this really going on? What the hell is this guy saying? Is anybody going to stop him? So he keeps interrupting because he's like, I don't know what's going on here. I'm living in upside down land. Like, here's a guy whose son sits on the board of a Ukrainian company, can't even speak Russian. He doesn't know anything about energy. He gets paid over $50,000 a month. He collects millions of dollars, and nobody's even asking him that question. I have to ask him. And then I'm trying to explain, he's trying to explain himself. And I'm not excusing the fact that, whatever, he interrupted. But he would, because he couldn't believe what was going on there. They want you to believe the lie. They want you to believe it. See, they would be really happy with two guys just chit-chatting back and forth. Nobody's speaking up. Everybody's spewing their lies. End of the night. Didn't Chris Wallace do a great job? Oh, that was fantastic. Nobody interrupted each other. And this is what they believe, which is, by the way, usually what happens. And they usually, like, even with Bush, even with the Clintons, even with whatever, all the Obamas, it was always the same crap. It was always the same stuff. We know it. They always promised, right? We're going to move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Oh, no, we really can't because it's going to ignite an all-out Arab war. Sorry, we promised you that. Oh, we're going to do this. Oh, no, we can't. Oh, we're going to do this with taxes. Oh, no, I promise no new taxes. Remember Bush Sr.? Final last words. But everybody got along, right? Because Clinton saw Bush Sr. as like the father he never had. They would all watch football together. You guys not think about this? Do you not sit here and think about the relationship all these people have with each other, like a special club? And remember when President Trump, after he won and is swearing in, remember what was going on? Remember how Bush and the Obamas, and I mean, it was just despicable. It was just despicable. The American people, throughout history, and I know you know this, we have been the envy of the world. Why? Because we're the people that say, we're not going to take this shit. It doesn't matter if we come from the Philippines or China or Cuba or Guatemala or Nicaragua or anywhere in South America, Brazil, Argentina, wherever from the world we are, Haiti, Africa, Cameroon. I mean, we're out of our countries because we're not going to take this anymore. We're going to get to the United States. I don't know how, in a lottery, illegally. We're going to, we've got this X gene, all of us. Doesn't matter what color we are. Doesn't matter who we are. We've got an X gene. For the most part, that's been us. And that is the reason why that X gene went into full overdrive in 2016 and put, we were just like, oh, okay, wait a minute. We're so sick of this establishment. We're going to put this guy in. He is going to listen to us. But they're working diligently. The Lincoln Project, all the people backing Biden, all the Republicans who support Biden, all those posters, they don't want you to think for yourself. They want you to change your mind. They want you to see things that aren't really there. I know you won't let them. I know you're probably like me, just as frustrated with everything you saw, even last night. Don't let them do this. Do what's right. Stand up. Be proud. And say, you know what? I don't need you to tell me how to think. I know what I can see with my own eyes. I know how I can feel with my own heart. That's that. That's what makes our nation so great. And I'm not going to let anyone, I know you're not going to let anyone tear this nation apart. No way, no how. We are not going to let it. We are not going to let that happen. We're going to take care of one another. And I know I've been going on and on, but I just want you, if you get an opportunity, take a look, watch the debate again, hear what I'm saying, and see for yourself. See for yourself what's going on here. And remember, nobody has the right to tell you how to think, to tell you what to do. You can see it for yourself. You can get that information yourself. That is, as long as they're not censoring the heck out of you or censoring the heck out of all the people that you might be wanting to listen to. But there's ways around that, right? There's ways around that. Anyways, thank you so much for being a part of the Sara Carter Show. I'm coming to you today from my home studio. I just had to let this out. And you can follow me, remember, at Sara Carter DC on Twitter, at YouTube. You can watch a lot of the interviews we do with all of our guests on YouTube at Sara Carter, and go to Parler. It's Sara Carter Official on Parler. Remember, Parler is a great place where we can read stories where we're not going to be censored. Parler is amazing. Let's get there. Let's get on there. Let's make it important, just as important as Twitter. Subscribe and give us a 5-star rating, please, on your podcast app. Whatever it is, if it's iPod, iTunes, whatever, just give us a 5-star rating and a review, and we will read that review and we will take what you say to heart. Again, thank you so much for being a part of this show, for being a part of my life. God bless you. Remember, we're taking the story back.